The soft golden sunlight stretched across the quiet coastline as the morning waves rolled gently onto the sand. Hidden far away from crowded cities and flashing cameras, a peaceful seaside town became the center of quiet whispers after two familiar faces were spotted enjoying time together. Baris Arduc arrived first. Wearing a simple white shirt and sunglasses, he stepped out onto the balcony of a small private resort overlooking the sea. The location was known for protecting celebrity privacy, attracting artists and writers who wanted to escape the pressure of public attention. Guests respected silence there. No loud music, no busy schedules, only calm ocean air and long peaceful afternoons. For the first few hours, Baris kept mostly to himself. He sat near the water with a notebook in hand, occasionally smiling as he watched boats move slowly across the horizon. Staff members described him as kind and quiet, greeting everyone politely before returning to his peaceful corner by the beach. But everything changed just before sunset. A black car quietly entered the resort entrance, and within moments, whispers began spreading among a few guests nearby. Elçin Sangu stepped out wearing a soft beige dress and carrying a light sweater in her hand. Her hair moved gently in the ocean breeze as she smiled warmly toward the hotel manager welcoming her. No official announcement had been made. No interviews had been given. Yet the atmosphere suddenly felt different. When Baris noticed Elcin walking toward the garden pathway, his serious expression immediately softened. Witnesses later described the moment as natural and genuine, almost like two people reconnecting after a long separation from the noise of everyday life. They greeted each other warmly, not dramatically, not loudly, just quietly happy. The two stars spent the evening walking beside the ocean while the sky slowly turned orange and pink above them. They talked for hours, stopping occasionally to admire the sunset or laugh at private jokes no one else could hear. Guests at the resort tried their best not to interrupt them. Even from a distance, it was clear the pair wanted a calm and meaningful vacation away from public pressure. The next morning, the two were seen sharing breakfast on a small outdoor terrace covered in flowers. Fresh fruit, coffee and warm pastries covered the table while soft ocean wind moved through the nearby palm trees. Elcin laughed as Baris attempted to pour coffee while distracted by one of her stories. A little coffee spilled onto the table, causing both of them to burst into laughter. It was a small moment, but one that immediately caught the attention of nearby visitors. They looked comfortable together, relaxed, happy. Throughout the day, the pair explored the quiet town surrounding the resort. They visited small bookstores, local cafes, and hidden art shops tucked between narrow streets filled with flowers. Rather than drawing attention to themselves, they blended naturally into the peaceful atmosphere around them. At one small cafe near the marina, Baris reportedly held the door open for Elcin while she smiled appreciatively before stepping inside. The cafe owner later described them as extremely respectful and warm. They looked peaceful, the owner quietly shared. Not like celebrities trying to be noticed, just two people enjoying time together. Later that evening, the pair rented a small private boat for a sunset trip across the water. As the boat moved farther from shore, the busy world seemed to disappear completely around them. Elcin sat near the edge of the boat, watching the reflection of the setting sun dance across the sea. Baris joined her quietly, offering her a blanket as the evening breeze became cooler. For several minutes, neither of them spoke. They simply watched the horizon together. At one point, Elcin leaned closer to say something softly, causing Baris to laugh in a way fans rarely saw during interviews or public appearances. It was relaxed and genuine, the kind of laughter shared only in moments of complete comfort. As darkness slowly covered the sea, small lights from distant buildings reflected across the water like stars floating on the surface. The boat captain respectfully kept his distance, allowing the pair to enjoy the silence and privacy they clearly valued. Back at the resort later that night, rumors quietly began spreading online after a few distant photographs surfaced showing the two walking side by side near the beach. Fans immediately reacted. Some called them the perfect match. Others wondered if the vacation was simply a close friendship between longtime colleagues. But neither Baris nor Elcin responded publicly. And somehow that silence only made the mystery feel stronger. The following day brought even more attention. Several visitors noticed the pair spending time near a quiet cliffside viewpoint overlooking the ocean. The location was famous for breathtaking scenery, especially during sunrise. According to witnesses, Baris arrived early carrying 2 cups of coffee while Elcin followed shortly after wrapped in a light jacket against the cool morning air. The two sat together for nearly an hour watching the sunrise without looking at their phones once. No cameras, no interviews, no public performance. Just calm conversation and quiet smiles. At one point, Elcin appeared emotional while discussing something serious. Baris listened carefully without interrupting, occasionally nodding while offering reassuring words. Whatever the conversation involved, it seemed deeply personal and meaningful. Moments later, the mood became lighter again when a nearby seagull suddenly landed close to their table hoping for food. Elcin laughed immediately while Baris jokingly tried to negotiate with the bird for peace. The small interaction quickly became one of the sweetest stories shared among guests staying at the resort. As evening approached once again, resort staff prepared a private dinner near the beach for the pair. Soft candlelight reflected against the sand, while waves quietly rolled nearby under the moonlight. Unlike glamorous celebrity parties often seen online, this dinner felt simple and sincere. Fresh seafood, warm bread, quiet music from distant waves, and 2 people smiling across the table from one another. During dinner, witnesses noticed Baris carefully pulling Elcin's chair closer to the table before sitting down himself. Throughout the evening, the pair appeared deeply engaged in conversation, occasionally pausing only to admire the peaceful view surrounding them. For fans following the growing rumors online, the vacation had become impossible to ignore. Were they simply close friends? Or was something more beginning between them far away from the public eye? Neither star offered answers. But sometimes silence speaks louder than words. And on that quiet coastline surrounded by moonlight and ocean wind, the connection between Baris Arduc and Elçin Sangu seemed impossible to hide. The peaceful vacation that had started quietly was no longer a complete secret. By the 3rd morning of their stay, online discussions about Baris Arduc and Elçin Sangu had spread across fan pages and entertainment blogs around the world. Still, neither of them made any public statement. No interviews. No photographs posted personally. No attempt to explain the growing rumors. Instead, they continued enjoying their private escape as if the outside world did not exist. And perhaps for the first time in a long while, that freedom meant everything. The morning began with soft rain falling across the coastline. Gray clouds covered the sky while the sea moved gently beneath the cool breeze. Most guests remained indoors, choosing warm drinks and quiet reading corners inside the resort lounge. But Baris and Elcin seemed to enjoy the rainy atmosphere even more. Around mid-morning, the pair were seen leaving the hotel carrying umbrellas while walking slowly through the narrow streets of the nearby town. The rain was light enough to create a peaceful mood without forcing anyone indoors completely. Elcin stopped briefly in front of a small antique shop filled with handmade jewelry and old paintings displayed behind the windows. Baris noticed her admiring a delicate silver bracelet shaped like ocean waves. "You like it?" he quietly asked. Elcin smiled softly. "It reminds me of this place." Without saying another word, Baris entered the shop while Elcin laughed in surprise from the doorway. A few minutes later he returned holding the bracelet carefully inside a small gift box. "You didn't have to do that," she said warmly. "I wanted to," he replied simply. The moment was small and genuine, the kind of memory people carry quietly for years. As the rain continued falling around them, the pair walked toward a tiny bakery hidden near the corner of the old marina. The smell of warm bread and fresh pastries filled the air as they stepped inside. The bakery owner immediately recognized them but respectfully avoided drawing attention. Instead, she welcomed them like ordinary visitors escaping the weather. Baris ordered coffee while Elcin chose tea and a small chocolate pastry. They sat beside the window watching rain fall onto the empty streets outside. For nearly an hour they talked without interruption. Sometimes they laughed. Sometimes they sat quietly. And sometimes they simply looked out toward the sea together. At one point, Elcin asked Baris a question that seemed to surprise him. "If you could disappear anywhere in the world for a year," she asked, "where would you go?" Baris thought carefully before answering. "Somewhere peaceful," he said. "A place where nobody expects anything from me." Elcin nodded slowly, understanding exactly what he meant. Fame had brought both of them incredible success, but it had also brought endless pressure. Cameras followed every appearance. Rumors appeared from nowhere. Even ordinary moments became headlines. But here, in this quiet town beside the ocean, they finally seemed able to breathe normally again. Later that afternoon, the rain stopped and sunlight slowly returned across the coastline. The streets sparkled beneath the fading clouds while boats rocked gently in the harbor. Baris suggested taking a drive along the coastal roads before sunset. Elcin agreed immediately. The pair rented a small vintage car from a local shop and spent the next several hours exploring hidden viewpoints overlooking the sea. Music played softly from the radio while warm wind moved through the open windows. At one point during the drive, they stopped near a cliff covered in wildflowers. Below them, waves crashed gently against the rocks while birds circled high above the water. Elcin stepped closer to the edge carefully, completely focused on the breathtaking view ahead. Baris watched her quietly for a moment before speaking. "You seem happy here." She turned toward him with a calm smile. "I forgot what peaceful feels like," she admitted. For a few seconds, neither of them said anything more. The silence between them no longer felt uncomfortable. It felt safe. As sunset approached, golden light covered the coastline in soft colors. Baris took several photographs of the scenery while Elcin playfully complained that he was secretly becoming a travel photographer. "And you," he joked back, "are secretly becoming impossible not to photograph." Elcin laughed immediately, slightly embarrassed by the compliment. The chemistry between them had become impossible to ignore. Not dramatic, not loud, just natural. That evening, the resort organized a small outdoor movie screening near the beach for guests staying at the property. Most people arrived carrying blankets and warm drinks as soft lights illuminated the sand beneath the stars. Baris and Elcin sat near the back away from the crowd, hoping to remain unnoticed. For the first half of the film, they watched quietly while ocean waves moved behind the screen. But eventually attention shifted away from the movie itself. Elcin became cold as the night air grew stronger near the water. Without hesitation, Baris gently placed his jacket over her shoulders. She looked at him with surprised gratitude. "Thank you," she whispered. "You're welcome," he replied softly. Nearby guests pretended not to notice the sweet interaction, though smiles quietly spread across several faces. The connection between them no longer looked uncertain. It looked real. After the movie ended, most guests returned indoors, but Baris and Elcin stayed behind near the empty shoreline. Moonlight reflected across the ocean, while the distant sound of waves created a peaceful rhythm around them. They walked slowly across the sand, leaving footprints behind them. Elcin suddenly stopped walking. "What?" Baris asked gently. She looked toward the horizon before answering. "Do you ever wonder what life would look like without all the noise?" Baris understood immediately. The interviews, the rumors, the expectations, the endless public attention. "Yes," he admitted quietly. "More than people realize." Elcin looked down for a moment before smiling softly. "Maybe that's why this vacation feels different." Baris stepped slightly closer, the ocean breeze moving between them. "Different in a good way?" he asked. Elcin met his eyes. "Yes." For several long seconds, neither of them moved. The world around them felt completely silent except for the waves nearby. And then very gently, Baris reached for her hand. Elcin did not pull away. Instead she smiled. A real smile. The kind that appears only when someone feels completely safe beside another person. Far away from cameras and headlines, beneath moonlight beside the sea, the answer fans had been wondering about suddenly felt clearer than ever before. Maybe this vacation was never just a vacation. Maybe it was the beginning of something much deeper.